Hey guys, what's up? Sorry it's been so long since my last video from the unboxing of all my parts, but I finally put everything together. I actually made a few changes from what I said I would do in the video, so I'll go ahead and just show them to you real quick. So pardon me if I'm going to talk really fast. I got a lot I wanted to say, so bear with me. The Cooler Master Scout case is what I upgraded to. I did have the Centurion 5, which I really liked. It's right over here. It was a great case. I've had it for about 3 years, and it's been with a lot of computers I've built, but I decided it's time for an upgrade, so I read a lot of reviews. I almost got the HAF 932 full tower, which was a really nice case, excellent for organizing cables, a lot of space, could fit pretty much any graphics card on the market if I needed to, but I thought, I don't know if I really need it, but I went ahead and got the Scout case. I read a lot of reviews. I liked the way it looks, awesome design. It's got the handle up top, which I really love. I do take it sometimes some places, so it makes it easy to carry around. I love the airflow in this case is just great. It has a 140mm fan in the front, 140 up top that blows air out of the case, and then a 120mm in the back. The 120 and the 140 both have red LEDs. They're not real bright. I'm not a very very heavy light user, but I do like a subtle light that kind of gives it a cool little glow. And then I have 2 LEDs on my graphics cards. But anyway, the handle is really cool. It does allow you to pick it up. It's very firm, very sturdy. I love the top display on this thing. It's got the power button, which is pretty big. It's got the reset button above it. Then this is really cool. It's a light button, so you can turn the lights on and off if you don't want the lights showing at all for some reason. That's a pretty cool feature. And then you have your microphone, headphone jack, and 4 USB ports. So that's pretty awesome, right on the front display. My other one only had 2. And I had a firewire on the front, but I never really used it, so I think they kind of took that into thought and said, why have that there? Just put 4 USBs. I do have a fan on the side here as well, which I'll get into a little later, because there's a lot of heat in the case. Even though the airflow is really good, I think I've pretty much maximized what I can do with air. But I have this fan and it's blowing out instead of in, because there's a lot of hot air from the graphics cards and everything. But it's an awesome looking case. It's all black, very cool look. I'll go ahead and take this off actually for us. Give me one sec. And there's the inside of everything. So overall in all, excellent for cable management. I have all the cables, which I can show you. They all go into the back and they're neatly organized, so everything just comes out where it needs to. So there's not all these like cables laying around and everything. So everything's pretty well organized. Looks pretty decent. I'll probably clean this up a little later. That's the only really mess that there is. The V8 fits very well in this case, so if anybody's asking about that, very, very awesome, and it looks really cool, and it does a very good job of cooling as well. I have the CPU up to 3.8. I know it could go higher with some better cooling, but probably on air this is about the best you can do, which is pretty much all the reviews I've read and looked at with other people as well. But perfectly stable, ran for hours with Prime 95. Very, very good. The one disappointment I did have when putting everything was the RAM. The RAM is the OCZ 1600 megahertz DDR3 memory, but it does not want to run at 1600 megahertz. I had a lot of trouble getting it to 1600 or even 1333, which I was very disappointed in. I didn't know what to do. I was really going to return them. Finally, I just realized it needed some more voltage rather than the standard one, and I got it to 1333, fine, stable. It's at 99920 with a command rate of 1, so that's kind of cool. But it would not run at 1600 megahertz, although it passes memory test 86 just fine. It passes a couple other tests, but in Prime 95, when you do the full benchmark, it just does not last. And anytime I change it, that's what changes the benchmark, and it runs fine as long as the memory's not that high. So, but it does run fine at 1333 with a slight voltage bump. I think from 165 to like 17 something. So that was a small disappointment. I went ahead and decided to keep them though, because there wasn't too much of an advantage between 1333 and 1600. So I think it runs just fine, so I decided to go ahead and keep them and everything like that. The motherboard, I will say though, is amazing. This MA790XT-UD4P from Gigabyte is great. I used to be a die-hard 8-bit fan until 8-bit went down. They don't longer make motherboards, so kind of a disappointment. But they do make awesome motherboards, Gigabyte, and definitely worth the money for anything that you buy from them. I'll go ahead and tell you about the video cards. I know I originally said I got a 5850 on order from ProVantage. Instead, because of what I wanted to do, I wanted to use the video cards with my 27-inch iMac, which I plan on getting. I did have a MacBook Pro 15-inch, but I wanted to use the new quad-core iMac for all my video stuff and everything like that. So I decided I'd go ahead and get a 5850. Number one, it's the new card on the market. 2, it's fast. 3, it would have a display port on the back of it, so I could run it into my 27-inch iMac and use it as a PC display as well as my Mac computer. However, I read a lot of reports after I got the 5850 that the display port wasn't being, you couldn't use the functionality like that, even though it's not officially supported by Apple from the mini display port. There is a cable from display port to mini display port. As you can see in the back, there it is. So after reading the reviews, I was severely heartbroken. I didn't know what to do. I read a little bit about it. A lot of people were getting it to be successfully working with a 4890. So I went ahead and invested in a 4890. Ran some tests, and sure enough, it booted up just fine. Came right on the screen. All you do is you use Command F2, and it'll do like a switch. It's like a KVM switch kind of. And there's your Windows 7. So I was like, if I'm going to get a 4890, might as well get 2 for Crossfire. That'd be better than having 1 if I can't have a 5850. So I did. I got 2 for Crossfire. They come out to a very good benchmark. So at a resolution that this uses, 2560 by 1440, it runs very well. I think I get a 3D Vantage score of like 16,557. So they run really nice. I will say that they run very hot, and that's the only thing about this. Even though I have really good airflow with the whole case, I think it's the way the coolers are designed. You can see that they don't blow air necessarily all out the back, although they have grates there for air to come out the back. Most of the airflow gets escaped and it comes out above it. So most of the hot air from this bottom one rises up, and everything's going into my CPU fan. So even though mine is stable at 3.8, it gets to be like 65 degrees Celsius, which is hotter than I want it to be. If you guys have any suggestions or anything, let me know. I'm really considering possibly getting water cooling for the CPU, just because that would, pretty much eliminate the hot air that's coming out of the cards. I have them running at 925 GPU clock, and they're still at 1050 for the memory, which puts it at like 4.2 gigahertz. So a lot of memory bandwidth there. I think it's like 134 gigabits per second on both cards. I do have the PCI Express clock up to 110 instead of 100 megahertz, so that's kind of cool. And of course the CPU's at 3.8, so altogether it makes a very nice computer. I'm very, very excited. Lastly, I went ahead and upgraded my power supply. I had an Antec 650 watt power supply, which has been great for a year now, but I decided I'd go ahead and get something a little bit better, especially if I was going to use a Crossfire 4890s. So this power supply is great. I've had Antec before, I've had Rosewill, but this is an awesome power supply, does everything really well. And I'll have another video soon with some benchmarks and things like that from 3D Mark, and some from some other games, maybe like Crisis and stuff. But very well, very nice. If you guys have any questions for me, let me know. Any other suggestions about the cooling. But everything's all cool. Alright guys, thanks.